Who's that handsome guy? Hello, 911 emergency. There's a handsome guy in my house. Oh, wait a second, cancel that. It's only me.
Hello and welcome back to Director's Choice. Childhood is a visceral experience. It's a time full of firsts, intense emotions, and innocence that many adults reminisce over the years. Our imaginations as children can create entire worlds and stories outside of our own, all originating from a passing thought. As kids, we were able to make these imagined realities coexist within our own, to the point that we can't tell where one ends and the other begins. It's a time when we are building a self-image of ourselves as we learn where we stand in the world around us. Maybe when we looked at ourselves in the mirror, we saw a buff superhero or a beautiful princess, where others saw a creative 8-year-old. There are even kids' shows based on the creative imaginings of children becoming real, like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Dragon Tales, and The Backyardigans, to name a few. Unfortunately for us, we have not yet figured out a way to make the creatures we made up when we were 8 years old real or turn into superheroes. At least not in a real way that lasts past a certain age when we start to get older and stop thinking about those things. That's exactly the experience that this theory about Jonny Bravo comes from. What if Jonny Bravo was actually a child? Anyone who watches Jonny Bravo can sense the childlike persona that he emanates, though it can easily be dismissed as an attempt to make him an enjoyable protagonist for a children's cartoon. However, if you take a closer look at this character and his behavior, it can easily be argued that Jonny Bravo is, in reality, a child.
I'll be back in a week. That's 7 days. So until then, you take care of my favorite little boy. That's you, Johnny. You're my favorite little boy.
Right.
Let's start with the most obvious point about this theory. He is depicted as a large, muscular man with a deep voice and a cool demeanor. However, if you look more closely at his size in comparison to the other characters in the show, there are some noticeable differences. We could easily chop up his overly large upper body and short legs as the artistic vision of the show's creators for its unique protagonist. But when you look at him in the context of the full cast of characters, he stands out prominently. Everyone has simpler, more realistic proportions that make his seem even more exaggerated. This could be because he is actually a child who has created an image for himself as a strong, cool ladies' man who sounds an awful lot like Elvis Presley. This could be why he has such small legs in comparison to the rest of his body. As a kid who does not understand fitness or anatomy, he may just know that big biceps and a six-pack are what are considered attractive and cool, because it's how they are depicted in the media. The other reason could also be that it's a hint from the creators, especially when you look at the size of his legs in comparison to one of the kids on the show, a little girl named Susie. In comparison with her proportions, it seems like Jonny has a normal child's proportions from the waist down. This brings us to the next point in this theory: Jonny's relationship with little Susie. Little Susie, or the little neighbor girl as Jonny calls her, hangs out with Jonny a lot. An adult being kind to children is one thing, but they spend so much time together that the concept of it being friendship between a child and an adult man seems a little strange. Maybe Susie is a little bit younger than Jonny is, so he still views her as a kid while he sees himself as a man. Whether it's just being kind to the neighborhood girl or a true friendship, it's a much more realistic relationship dynamic when you view them as two neighborhood kids who have grown up together. This brings us to the next red flag about an adult Jonny. He lives with his mother, Bunny. If he is as big and cool of a guy as he's supposed to be, why does he not have a job and still live with his mother? In addition, she is still very involved in his life. This leaves us with two options regarding Jonny's character. He is either an adult that is a jobless bum who mooches off his mother, or he is a big child being taken care of by his patient mother, as he pretends to be like all the cool men he sees in the media or on TV. Take your pick. His strange relationship with the opposite sex extend past his friends and family as well. Jonny clearly thinks of himself as a ladies' man, but the women he pursues think otherwise. He has a notorious bad luck streak with women in that every woman he is interested in rejects him. There are a couple of reasons why this could be with this theory. The first is that since he is a young boy who is trying to emulate the men he sees on television and movies, he does not actually know how relationships work. Jonny wants to take these women on dates, but shows no interest or even knowledge of actual relationships with these women. If he is a young child, like the theory states, this could be because everything he knows he learned secondhand. So he has no real knowledge of complex adult things like romantic relationships. The other reason could be that because he is a child, any adult woman he approaches flirtatiously will obviously reject him.
You probably want to go out with me now, huh? Hey, what's so funny?
Some even beat him up physically for his attempts to flirt with them. While some see this as a sign that the theory doesn't hold up, it actually only furthers the idea. Jonny's attitude towards women and dating them implies that he has no real interest or experience in romance. Only the image of it as it relates to the cool guy aesthetic he so clearly wants to emulate. When these women reject him, that is the only part of this reality that Jonny experiences firsthand. To a child, going through the humiliating experience of rejection, even verbal rejection, may feel like a heavy blow. That means that those scenes where he is beaten by these women may in reality be just a physical representation of how rejection feels to someone so young. Those women could have just turned him down verbally, but Jonny felt the embarrassment so strongly, they caused him the same pain as a physical beating. Aside from these important relationships in his life, his childlike qualities shine through in his actions, mannerisms, and general behavior throughout the show. Some of the more memorably childish moments are when Jonny attends a karate class with a bunch of kids, or the way he breaks out into a dance he made up called the monkey. He often calls women mama. This is a famous Elvis catchphrase, so that is also a reference to the fact that the creators used Elvis Presley as inspiration for his character. But it also comes across as childlike when used by Jonny. If a small boy idolizes men like that enough to create his own persona and self-image as a reflection of those men, it would make sense that he would also borrow those catchphrases. Also, it seems less likely that a grown man who likes Elvis Presley would repeat that than an innocent child who thinks everything the men he sees on TV do is brilliant and original. That childish manner also comes out in his over-exaggerated facial expressions and movements throughout the duration of the show. It's part of Jonny Bravo's charm, this giant, muscular man who is also goofy and sometimes a little bit dumb.
Hey, what's this?
Mr. Bravo?
He's always flexing his muscles or saying random catchphrases, especially ones that have to do with women or his appearance. He has a flair for striking poses or flexing his muscles before saying one of his signature catchphrases, like,
Whoa, mama!
Or,
Say, what's the matter, little mama?
it's not often that you see an adult flexing their muscles in public and calling women mama. It's the kind of awkward, cringy thing you catch a kid doing or saying. However, just like any other fan theory about film or television, there are points in the show where it does not hold up as well as others. One of the biggest ones comes from an episode where a girl Jonny had a crush on in high school calls him and asks to meet up. She ends up being married with kids, but wants to catch up with her old friend. It's hard to imagine a young child knowing much about high school and love when he isn't old enough to have experienced either. However, with the theory of Jonny being a kid comes the implicit understanding that that means not everything we see happen in the show is actually what happened. Remember, we are talking about a child who is imagining himself as a hunky blonde ladies' man wannabe. Who's to say there aren't scenes that were completely fabricated within his imagination? There's even an episode where he hangs out with Scooby-Doo and the gang, and then it's never addressed again. There are several episodes like this that don't necessarily make sense in the context of the rest of the show.
Well, how do you feel?
I feel exactly the same. Say, you don't happen to have a couple of heads of lettuce I can gnaw on, do you?
So the theory still has merit in the sense that a child's imagination can create this entire alternate reality for themselves within their own real one.
It's Jonny. Just close your eyes and think of science.
Look, a banana!
All in all, Johnny Bravo is a show about a strangely proportioned, goofy, naive character named Johnny Bravo, as he navigates a series of interesting and often strange adventures. Sure, it's a cartoon, so the characters are bound to be a little goofier than their live-action counterparts. However, cartoons are often great outlets for creators to put stories with depth behind the seemingly innocuous surface of an animated kids show. Cartoon Network has always been especially skilled at this, and many of their original shows have similar theories about their individually created realities. There is nothing dark or very deep about the idea of Johnny Bravo being a child, but it's definitely another perspective through which to view the show through itself and its eclectic collection of characters. Take a look at these other recent clips by Director's Choice, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified with our latest videos.